Well, I don't know if heaven is on fire, but Twitter sure is. Welcome back to Words of Paradise. I'm your host, Leon Idle, and Paul Stanley, the lead guitarist for Kiss, decided to, in a moment that I don't think has any sort of spark, or at least behind the scenes maybe there's something, but just out of nowhere, decided to post his thoughts on gender identity, sexualization of kids, the whole nine, and let's be honest, it was pretty based. I'm not the biggest Kiss fan in the world, but I've definitely listened to them. I absolutely enjoy their music, especially when I'm in a classic rock mood. I mean, Detroit Rock City is amazing. Obviously, I opened this with a Heaven's on Fire reference, Calling Dr. Love. They have some great tracks, but I'm not going to say I listen to anything outside of their hits. If I want some classic rock vibes that are more than just their big hits, I'm going to listen to bands like Foreigner and whatnot, but Kiss is still incredibly awesome. But yeah, not in the news this time for any of their zany antics that they've come to be known for. Nope. Kiss is in the news because Paul Stanley said honestly something that I wish a whole lot more celebrities were saying. Let's take a look at it. Kiss, Paul Stanley has thoughts about parents who support kids' gender identities. Ooh, I would love to hear these thoughts, Polly. Let's do it. Kiss member Paul Stanley has, for some reason, made a statement on Twitter about his stance on kids' gender identities and the parents who are normalizing and even encouraging participation and embracing them, calling it a sad and dangerous fad. I'm gonna come out and say it. I think he is entirely correct. There's a difference between normalizing and encouraging and tolerating. I'm all for tolerance as long as what they're doing is, within the confines of the law and whatnot. I'm not up for anything beyond tolerance, especially when it involves children, which is what his whole stance is here. And parents encouraging, gender ideologies and whatnot. Sorry, I'm not a fan of it. Wait till the kid's an adult, they can decide for themselves and go from there. But yeah, let's continue. There's a big difference between teaching acceptance and normalizing and even encouraging participation in a lifestyle that confuses young children into questioning their sexual identification as though some sort of game and the parents in some cases allow it. He wrote in an unsolicited "My thoughts on what I'm saying" statement on Sunday. Unsolicited, as if every thought on Twitter isn't unsolicited in some way, shape, or form. Like, unsolicited just means no one asked for it, and I get on Twitter, don't get me wrong, I enjoy about, 40% of what I see, but I didn't ask for any of it. All thoughts on Twitter are unsolicited, so a weird word choice there, but let's keep going. He added, there are individuals who, as adults, may decide reassignment is their needed choice, but turning this into a game or parents normalizing it as some sort of natural alternative or believing that because a little boy likes to play dress up in his sister's clothes or a girl in her brother's, we should lead them steps further down a path that's far from the innocence of what they're doing. And he hits the nail on the head. Y'all want to know a secret? You guys want to know? You want to know a little secret about your boy, about little baby Leon Idle? I must have been maybe 6 years old. I got me a younger sister, just so you guys know. And I remember we was in KB Toys. I was 6 or 7 years old, and my sister was getting a Barbie, and I was jealous. Not necessarily jealous because she was getting a Barbie, or maybe I was. I don't remember. But all I know is I wanted a Kelly doll. I don't play with Barbies. I'm not gay or anything to that effect. But in that moment, as a 7-year-old boy, I wanted a Kelly doll because my sister was getting a Barbie. I don't know why I wanted it. Maybe it was jealousy that my sister was getting a toy and I wanted one as well. Maybe it was a matter of just, wanting to fit in or play with my sister. I truly don't remember. My mother wasn't a fan of the idea. And, if I remember, she even suggested getting a Spider-Man toy or something else, even though she did not like the fact that I liked comic books at that age. But, that's how much she didn't want me playing with something affiliated with Barbie. But no, I was adamant about this Kelly doll, and I ended up getting it. She ended up getting me the Kelly doll. I don't really remember ever playing with it or anything like that. I genuinely think it was just an older sibling being jealous moment looking back on it. But the point is, your boy didn't turn out gay or trans or anything like that. Playing with this little girl toy didn't alter my brain chemistry. But now imagine that today, a lot of parents, they see their little boy asking for a Barbie toy. Oh man, trans. Automatically, we know our kid's trans because he wants to play with little girl toys. He must, on his inside feely parts, identify as a female. No. Sometimes kids are just weird. It's that simple. I've been that weird kid. Everyone's been that weird kid. Everyone's, tried on their mom's shoes or something at one point or another, just messing around, being dumb kids. With many children who have no real sense of sexuality or sexual experiences caught up in the fun of using pronouns and saying what they identify as, Some adults mistakenly confuse teaching acceptance with normalizing and encouraging a situation that has been a struggle for those who were truly affected and have turned it into a sad and dangerous fad, he concluded. It's unclear what specifically prompted Stanley to make this statement. You see, I have a sneaking suspicion as to what it was. The fact that we're seeing this all over the news, we're seeing kids starting to identify as all these crazy things that, let's be honest, ain't real when we're looking at things from a scientific lens. Like, I'm sorry, no, you're not asexual, you're not agender, you're not non-binary, you're either a male or a female. If you want to be called something else and you're a consenting adult, I absolutely will. I will honor that for you because, I mean, at the end of the day, you just want to respect people, and as long as you've been a respectful individual, I'll respect you and call you what you want. But some dumb 8, 9-year-old, even 15, 16-year-old kid that hadn't experienced the world, sorry, dude. Until proven otherwise, you're probably a dude and you might just grow up to be gay or something. Like, that's what typically happens with the more feminine men that think they're girls. They end up just turning into gay male adults. And again, no issue with that either. So yeah, they say that they don't know what prompted this. He's probably seen it all over the news, all over social media, like all the rest of us are, and actually decided to say something because what are you gonna do? Cancel a 70-plus-year-old rock star? Okay. What is clear is Stanley has conflated sexuality and gender identity. Okay, yes he did, but did he really though? Because most of these people that have some sort of gender identity also have some sort of wacky out there sexuality, calling them things like gender queer and that, you know, they're bisexual. Like, I'm sorry, again, it is fine to be whatever you want, but the two do tend to go hand in hand. You don't often find someone say that they're non-binary that also are only, you know, straight, attracted to one particular gender. Also, he may have been using sexuality just as a catch-all term, which, is it correct? No, but do we all get what he's talking about? Yes. So Stanley's conflated sexuality with gender identity, which develop independently. People communicate their gender to others through gender expression. This may be done through mannerisms, clothing, and hairstyles, per the Mayo Clinic. Oh my goodness, this should be the white person clinic if it's called the Mayo Clinic. Gender identity develops separately from sexual orientation. People's sexual orientation is related to whom they're attracted to on a physical, emotional, and romantic basis. I have no doubts in my mind that they are intrinsically linked. If you believe in your head that you are like agender or genderqueer or whatever any of that means, anything aside from the new retarded term cisgender, if you're anything other than cisgender, then you are probably going to have, I would say in the majority of cases, at least if Twitter would have us believe, that you're also some sort of other, you know, non-straight sexuality as well. So I think him conflating the two, honestly, fine. There's so much crossover. We all know what he means. In fact, most children between 18 and 24 months recognize and can label gender groups, identifying others as girls, women, and feminine, and boys, men, and masculine. Most also label their own gender by the time they reach the age 3, according to Mayo Clinic. Well, no kidding, because a 3-year-old only knows about the two, boy and girl. If they even know that much, they know boy and girl, and they know which one they are. That's why we shouldn't be introducing any other options to kids, if you ask me, because there's only the two options. Stanley's statement comes in the wake of a slew of anti-trans legislation taking root nationwide. Well, Yahoo Entertainment, we all know what your bias is. It's not even anti-trans legislation that's happening. I'm so tired of this narrative. Taking root nationwide, including Virginia, South Dakota, Texas, and Tennessee. Last week, the Department of Justice filed a lawsuit challenging Tennessee's new law banning, they put that twice. Great reporting there, Yahoo. Banning gender-affirming treatments for minors. Yeah, how is that anti-trans? We're talking about gender-affirming treatments for minors. They're not adults. We don't need to be giving kids, you know, that think they're going through something mental, you know, puberty blockers that physically affects them and whatnot, or worse, doing like breast reduction or anything like that, which absolutely has happened. There's case after case of it. Yeah, no, give them some therapy, and if after all that therapy they feel like that they still want to do it, go for it. Once you've reached the age of 18, you're a consenting adult and can do what you want. I'm sorry, most kids don't have the mental wherewithal to have all the answers like that. We don't let 16-year-olds drive. I mean, we're gonna let them chop off the dicks? One of several bills targeting the state's LGBTQ plus community, arguing that SB 1 violates the Constitution's Equal Protection Clause by denying necessary medical care to youth. It is not necessary. Anyone that wants to argue that this is necessary is inherently wrong. Because if you want to talk about how it's necessary, because what about the suicide rates? Suicide rate stays the exact same post-transition. Study after study after study has shown that the suicide rate does not change whether they transition or not. So it is not necessary medical care to have the kid's dick cut off or whatever it is they want to do. Obviously, I'm saying that to be, bombastic and whatnot, but just in general, it is not necessary. Want to know how we know it hasn't been necessary? Human evolution has gotten us this far. We are 8 billion people deep over the last several hundreds of thousands of years. If this was truly that big of an issue, if it was necessary, humans probably wouldn't have made it as far as we have evolutionarily. So, of course, like most things in life, I caught wind of this because of Twitter, seeing Paul Stanley, trending on Twitter. I had no idea this is what it was about. I was like, what, Paul Stanley? I'm curious. I'll click the trending tab. I was not prepared for what I would see. Who gives a fuck what Paul Stanley thinks about anything? I mean, I don't know, probably a bunch of people in their 60s who were fans of Kiss growing up. Oh lord, another ignorant, hypocritical, old cisgender man who made millions by flaunting rigid conservative norms when he was young, now spewing misinformation that harms and endangers trans youth. Paul Stanley, you deserve all the dragging you get, you pathetic bigot. What? What the f? He's not harming and endangering trans youth by putting out his opinion, his statement. I'm sorry, that's just not what the dude is doing. He deserves all the dragging he gets. He's a pathetic bigot. Nothing he said was bigoted. Absolutely. He wasn't saying trans kids don't exist. He wasn't saying to call for the removal of trans kids. He wasn't saying do not be tolerant to them. All he said is that parents enabling them is probably unhealthy, and frankly, that's not bigoted. That's a likely fact. Paul Stanley put out a statement about transing the kids that actually makes sense. Essentially, he's saying, leave the kids alone to grow up. Nice to know there are more normal people with common sense in the music scene than we knew. Yeah, no, that's a good tweet. I can't wait to see plenty of these, that defend Paul Stanley as well. Turns out Paul Stanley is an asshole. He doesn't know the difference between gender identity and sexuality. He doesn't know the difference between gender identity and drag. He doesn't understand gender identity is not a lifestyle choice. I will argue your sexuality is not a lifestyle choice. I will give you that. Your sexuality is not a lifestyle choice. Gender identity absolutely is. That is a lifestyle choice. You are making the choice. You know what? I'm not going to get into that. Point is, if you don't like the fact that's my opinion, fine. But yes, gender identity is a lifestyle choice. One that you are free to make as long as you're, an adult age, and obviously in America where we have freedom, you're free to make that lifestyle choice. I got no issue with folk that do, but it is a choice, just like almost everything else in life. The 70s, 80s, and 90s were very normal American family values time for Paul Stanley and Kiss. I hear they actually hated having sex with underage girls. All right, that was pretty good, Mr. John Daly. I'll give you that one. Have any of you heard the SoundCloud where someone pulled 45 minutes of isolated Paul Stanley stage banter? This guy sucks. Alright. Still can't get over how ridiculous it is for Paul Stanley to spread trans panic. Like, everything remarkable about him is just another poor execution of Gene Simmons' shitty opinions. I mean, I'm not a big fan of Gene Simmons. Well, like I said, I like the music from Kiss. I think Gene Simmons is an asshole. I don't know too terribly much about Paul Stanley, aside from his opinion right here. Pretty damn based. Excellent statement from Paul Stanley. We're getting a nice mix of the yays and the nays here, which I always appreciate. Like I said, I think the people who are against him are retarded. But again, I'm A-okay. I want them to have the freedom to say that, especially because we, could weed out who the morons are. I'm a bit young to have been a big Kiss fan, but I don't recall Paul Stanley ever insisting that we refer to him as a woman and demanding that you transition your toddler. And then that's in response to woke moralist. Paul Stanley went from Kiss, a literal drag band, to becoming the Karen from Detroit Rock City. Kiss wasn't a drag band. Yeah, they were all dressed up in makeup and stuff. They were very, very, flamboyant might be a way to put it, but really it was theatrical, not necessarily drag. There were bands that you might be able to consider drag bands. Maybe you can make that argument for Twisted Sister. I think you can absolutely make that argument for, Twisted Sister, Poison, maybe even Motley Crue. But Kiss, I would not call Kiss a drag band. I am so disturbed by what Paul Stanley posted. I've been a fan since I was 7 years old. I'm 53 now. I'm so disturbed that a 53-year-old individual, I assume man, is, disturbed by something some rock star posted. Get a life. 30 likes and I will eat a Paul Stanley Funko Pop. Paul Stanley is the worst guy and the worst band from a time when rock tours were just moving sexual assault factories. A guy with dozens of unsubstantiated rape allegations. A guy who's been described by friends as a piece of shit. Has thoughts about how you should be living. Okay, so he's like every single other celebrity. I've seen Paul Stanley twice in my life, once wearing platform boots and full face makeup for a band that sounds real feminine, and second time wearing a mask and a cloak while singing on Broadway musical. But sure, let's lecture us about the importance of gender roles. But that's not what he did. He was talking about kids. Paul Stanley was an adult when he did those things, and therein lies the difference. No one got into his mind when he was 6, 7 years old and told him he's a girl over and over and over just because maybe he liked to do that sort of thing, so he grew up believing in himself a chick strapped in the wrong body. No. Paul Stanley was an adult, and that is the difference here. We need to realize we're just talking about keeping kids innocent as kids for as long as humanly possible. But I could go on and on about through this. I mean, it's trending on Twitter, so anyone that wants to take a look at it, there are some pretty golden comments, frankly, on both sides, because the moronic people who are, anti-Paul Stanley's take on this, yeah, they're just going to post some dumb stuff, but it's always good for a laugh. And then you'll see some pretty cool based comments, like some of the ones I read. But all in all, I want to know your opinions on this. You guys clearly know mine. I stand pretty firmly with Paul Stanley on this one. But I'm actually really interested to see if this, boosts some album sales, boosts some, iTunes sales or whatnot. We're gonna see, Detroit Rock City back on the charts or whatnot because it's getting downloaded so much. So that would be an interesting strategy. I mean, we'll see if it actually impacts the music market. So that'll be that. But yeah, you guys know my thoughts and opinions. I want to know yours. So let me know in the comments down below, or let me know on Twitter where you can find me at BoltTheWord. And please do subscribe to the channel. I just got over that 800 subscriber mark. In fact, we're almost at 850. That's so amazing. That means we're almost at 1,000. So thank you so much. I truly couldn't say thank you enough or appreciate it anymore. It's only because of you I get to do this, so thank you so much. I am a nerdy news channel. I cover nerdy news every day. And while this wasn't necessarily nerdy, I mean, who doesn't love music and who doesn't love good classic rock music? But I do cover nerdy news every day, not always about situations like this, but about Dungeons & Dragons, Magic the Gathering, anime, movies, you name it. It's all here in the nerdosphere, and this has been Words of Paradise.